Welcome to week 5 of BAAS 4100, Managing a 21st Century Career. This week, we're going to be looking at some project management tools and also the gig economy. As I stated a few weeks ago, I'm putting different photos in to tell you a little bit more insight into me and my background. And what you see here is a photograph of the very first intern project that we held, the mini-turn project. This is the very first project team. These guys piloted the mini-turn program, and this was their presentation at Hunt Hunt Consolidated, in front of about 40 people, including the chairman and CEO of Hunt, which is a pretty powerful team. Your business project in this course is modeled on this program, and that's one of the reasons why I was selected or asked to teach this course, is that I'm one of the team that initiated the project, the intern program, and designed it and improved it over a course of the last 6 years. What we're going to be covering this week is that we're going to be looking at some soft and hard skills that are very beneficial for you to have in project management. We're going to look at some specific analysis tools and try to familiarize you to them, and then give you a chance to kind of use them as you evaluate your own skills, ability, and processes around job search. We're going to meet, I'm asking you to meet with your project team. You need to decide on a business project topic and submit a proposal to get approved. And then we're going to learn some about the gig economy and the different perspectives of that, both positive and negative. Okay. Again, the assignments in this course are designed with the piano, step by step in mind, give you some skills, look at that project in a step by step basis, and help us move forward. Our reading starts with The Alchemist this week, and is a nice, I think, reading about change, specifically because in the few pages we read, 33 through 47, all the way up to the end of that part 1, we see Santiago getting hit with some setbacks. The first one is when his first day on his adventure after selling his flock and sailing to Egypt, he loses his money to a thief. And he had some opportunities in the narrative where someone was trying to help him out, but he didn't understand the language, and he misinterpreted which of the people was his friend and which was his foe. And I think there's a great quote there. I'm like everyone else. I see the world in terms of what I would like to see happen, not what actually does. And he says this in a moment when he really kind of lost his energy for this new adventure, for following his dream. He has a setback, and it really kind of crushes his spirit. But he reaches into his pocket and finds those stones, and that kind of helps him to shift the story, shift the narrative a little bit. The king has even advised him something like that God and the whole universe conspires to make your dreams come true. And there's a quote by Joseph Campbell, which I really like, and I really hold some stock in. It says, when you take a step in the direction of your dreams, the universe takes two. The idea here that, things may happen on our path that don't look like they're taking us to our dream. Maybe they're challenges, maybe they're setbacks, but sometimes those setbacks give us a better route to accomplish something, whether that's learning a skill or maybe even resilience and perspective and persistence. Also in this chapter is, although it's spelled wrong here, the second bullet is about changing perspective can change attitude and circumstances. So when he's lost all his money and he's really kind of down on himself and feeling like an idiot for not paying attention, he starts kind of looking at that story and realizing that his description of the place he's in, it's a strange place, it's a bad place, and he realizes it wasn't just a strange place, it's just a new place. And when he reframed it and just using a softer language, he realizes that after all, This is a quote. What he always wanted was just that, to know new places. And so, even though he's had a setback, he's actually gone further than he ever thought he would, and he's following in the steps that really started his journey as a shepherd. Um, when he's changing his language here, what that's helping him to do is reframe this struggle and sadness and loss into a positive outcome. And he realized he had to choose between seeing himself as the poor victim of a thief um, and as an adventurer in quest of his treasure. And at this point, he decides that he is going to be an adventurer. And in some ways, this is the same for anyone who has a job that he or she hates. Often we frame that job into us being the poor victim of our boss or of company policies, etc., instead of being the adventurer in a quest of our dream. And so, where we are is our choice. I mean, you don't have to go to work. Of course, you may not like the consequences of not going to work, but it doesn't mean we're stuck there. We can get additional education, get a different job, etc. And so part of that change, part of that movement comes from first shifting our perspective sometimes when we're in this heavy doubt or heavy denial. And then he kind of has a bad situation, turns it into potentially good, and then at the very last part of our reading, he hits another setback. And this is when he realizes a shop owner offers him a job, and he's like, "Sure, I'll take a job, but I'm only going to work here for a day. I just need enough money to get to the pyramids." And the shop owner laughs at him and says, "Dude, you're going to work for more than a year, and you still won't have enough money to get to the pyramids." And he realizes the thief not only stole his money, but told him a lie that the pyramids were really close. And here's another quote that I really like. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just a quiet voice at the end of the day that says, "I will try again tomorrow." And sometimes we have to realize that in defeat, we just need to regroup. And so I really like this quote, that you don't always have to be brave and the adventurer out on your quest. Sometimes you just have to give up for the day, but set a goal to start again. To set a goal to start again. I'm not going to roar today, but I will try again tomorrow. Our first reading on the gig economy, or one of the gig economies, was actually a video, excuse me, not a reading, about California making a new law that impacts gig businesses. And basically, the battle line or the opposing sides were that although the gig economy is based on a free market concept, and that free market doesn't always benefit workers or protect their rights or protect some kind of equal treatment or a minimal amount of treatment, for example, a minimum wage. Okay. And the other side of that is new laws could fundamentally change the business models that the gig economy has really relied upon to grow so fast and exponentially. This could cause some companies to fail, or at least cause them to change drastically how they work and how they do things, which again could impact the workers as well. So it's a whole circle here. I think it's important when you're reading things like this to try to get multiple sides of an argument. And so that's what the readings here, the multiple readings, are about: getting some perspective, both at a low level, looking at specific employees, and then looking at some higher level stuff about people that have run companies, etc. So the California laws is specifically looking at the classification of gig workers. There's really very little legal requirements around how someone can be designated as a contractor or an employee. This was pretty much left up to businesses, and California law is putting some greater structures around that. Okay. Some impacts from that are that freedom and flexibility attracts a lot of workers. That this, again, the gig economy was a wonderful thing. You have a car, you can become an Uber driver, But as more and more people become Uber drivers, all of a sudden you're hustling more to find a fare, and maybe your income is dropping with competition. The other side is if you guarantee minimum wage. If you become an employee of a company, well, if you're an employee now, they may be telling you when you have to work, so you may not have the same freedom and flexibility. There's pros and cons of both sides. Going with that idea of pros and cons of both sides, we look at a couple different articles here. We look at one which is kind of profiling teachers in Oklahoma, pretty close to where we are here in Texas. And this is a nice little chart here on this page where you can see that many teachers, the vast majority of teachers, are working in addition to teaching. And so that article, Teacher by Day, kind of is asking the question, are companies exploiting people with low-paying jobs? Or are they really actually helping those people with low-paying jobs have an easy way to make extra money and make ends meet? The other article we look at here and spend some time here with it, especially for your own benefit as you're moving forward, but let's talk about the gig economy. And this author is in a different type of a gig economy or gig marketplace than an Uber. And he talks about this, that there are different types of gig workers, that there really should be different strokes for different folks. Some people that are just, have an extra car and think, oh, this is great. Let me go ahead and become an Uber driver. Don't necessarily have the background and training to be an independent business person, which is sort of what a gig worker is. The company's not paying your taxes, deducting that from your wage each time, and so you have to pay that at the end of the year. And many people may not realize that and may not be saving for that or paying it as they go along, and may get into some trouble. In addition, this author is suggesting that maybe as California tried to paint the companies as being predatory on the workers, maybe it's not personal, maybe it's structural, and maybe it's a structural issue with our whole economy, not just the gig economy. Bottom line, does that even matter when you're talking about fixes? So read both of those articles, look at them, and see what you come up with in regards to your thoughts about the gig economy. Okay. This is a great little article about project management and data analysis, okay? And I love this little graphic that you see here, and you'll see in the reading. And really, in our business project, you're kind of going through the first four steps: the business question, the analysis, the interpretation, and realization, okay? And so the business question is, what's going on in this industry or business that's creating a challenge? Why do we need to have a project? Why is there something important that we need to look at, okay? And so that's what you're doing up front here with your business project proposal, that the brainstorm you did last week or 2 weeks ago, and then this week that your proposal, your team proposal for what you want to look at as a team, okay? From there, you're going to move into analysis. And now you've done a little bit of analysis to kind of frame the question. What is the question, okay? And why do we need to look at that? That was the question. Now you're going to go into that and look at you looked at 3 to 5 sources. Now you're going to double those or triple those and really look at what's happening with that issue. Do some analysis, maybe use some of the tools we're going to talk about in a minute: SWOT analysis, cost benefit analysis, etc. So to figure out what are some potential solutions that a business or industry could use to offset this challenge. Now, if you have 4 team members in your group, then you will have 4 different solutions. Each team member is tasked with coming up with a potential solution. So if you have 5 team members, you'll have 5 solutions, etc., that you will be looking at in that analysis part, okay? When you've done this analysis and come up with your solutions, you're then going to interpret that and also do a little bit more of analysis, comparing those different solutions and trying to figure out which solution is the one or the best one that you want to recommend to this company. Okay, again, a SWOT analysis might be really good there, where you can do a strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat of each of the different solutions, and then based upon that, potentially come up with your recommended solution. Okay, once you have the recommended solution, you have to kind of go a little bit further, okay, with that one solution, and that is to figure out, tell us exactly how you would implement this. Is it a slow start, a fast start? Is it a year project? Is it a 10-year project? Again, you're not going to go into really great depth here, but you got to have some concrete and idea of what you want to do and how you want to recommend this company to pursue your recommendation. Okay, read through this article. It's very short, but read through all the steps, not just the first four. It's a great article on project management and data analysis. And I think this is happening in every company, and almost every project team is kind of following the same basic step-by-step process at some high level. Okay. Then we're going to look at a couple tools. The first tool is a very common tool. It's called SWOT Analysis. And what this is strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay. And it's how you can look at a business as a whole. You can look at a company. You could look at an industry. You could look at a division in the business. And there's a nice video here that kind of gives you a high level, a taste of how this would work. I think it's a really short video, but it gives you some of the meat, etc. Okay. You do have an assignment where I'm asking you to do a SWOT analysis of yourself, specifically pertaining to your job search skills and your process, etc. What are your strengths in looking for a job? What are your weaknesses in looking for a job? What opportunities are there? This may go from your career, when you did that chart about the jobs that you want to look for. What are the opportunities? What are the threats? If you're looking for a job, let's say you wanted to be a VCR repairman, well, they're not selling VCRs anymore, etc. So kind of looking at this and giving you a chance to do this at a very simple kind of project, looking at yourself and your job skills, and hopefully it gives you a little bit of insight into what you're doing well and what perhaps you're not doing well, and then also some opportunities and threats. In regards to your project, the first place you probably want to use this is to evaluate or validate your project topic. The challenge that you think is going on in the industry is probably in some kind of SWOT analysis. Maybe it's a threat. It's identified as a threat. Or maybe you look at that challenge and you do a strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat for a company or the industry related to that. And you look at all of those buckets. Later on, you might use SWOT analysis, and I mentioned this before, when you're looking at your different solutions, and this may be a way to compare them so you come up with your preferred recommendation. You need to have some kind of analytical or rational approach to how you've decided on the final recommendation. Hey, we've got these 4 different alternative solutions you might try. We think you should try number 3 because of blah, 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 blah. Okay? Finally, your assignment this week is to submit that project proposal. It's not a big thing. You've already done some of the legwork with formatting, etc. when you did your brainstorm. This is pretty much going to look just like your brainstorm. It may have some more data in it, but it's again, it's doing the same thing you did before. Identify a company. And I highly recommend, instead of identifying an industry, if your challenge is within an industry, that you pick a player, you pick a company that you want to use as your audience. It can really help you get some more information. It may also help you open a door for a company you might work for. The more specific you can get, the better you are, as opposed to doing something just for an industry. Okay? And also, typically when you're doing a proposal like this, or a presentation at the end, you really want to target people, and you want to make sure that your message is in line with the feedback you've been getting from a specific audience. So you need to hold a group meeting this week to discuss the different project ideas that you came up with in week 3 during brainstorming. You need to decide on one project and then to write it up. It's possible you can submit two if you're feeling really unsure of the scope, like is this project too big, is it too small, is he not going to like it, etc. You can submit two. Please number them 1 and 2, meaning 1 is the one you prefer to go with, 2 is your backup, or you can do that, project proposal and backup proposal. But just make sure it's identified, that which is your priority, etc. Okay. Again, documenting this is very similar to what you did in your brainstorm. And about the only thing that's different here is that you add a statement at the end, and pretty much this is verbatim for everyone, and you can see it there on the slide. It says, over the next 2 months, ACE consultants will conduct in-depth analysis of the above issue, identify alternative potential solutions, and you might put the number in there. We will identify 4 alternative solutions to meet the challenge, and we will recommend 1 strategy or solution and an implementation plan over the next 2 months. Okay, so you've got 2 months to do this project. You're asking your boss, is it okay if we work on this? Here's the team, etc. So this isn't a big project. More of the work is done outside of the documenting it, and that's with your meeting and discussing which project you want to focus on, and see how you handle the soft skills in that meeting. In week 3 or 4, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I think week 4 you did a contract, a team contract, and that contract had as its basis who's the project leader for each week over the next 10 weeks, and hopefully each person will get at least 2 shots to be the project leader. And the idea is that whoever is the project leader for this week 5, that person is responsible for the deliverable. So this week there's this proposal is a group project. They will be the ones who are responsible to make sure it gets turned in. Doesn't mean they're doing all the work. It means they're facilitating the meetings. It means that someone else may write it, but ultimately they are the ones to make sure it happens. Okay? And I want you to get that experience each time. So when you're the project manager or whoever it is, they should be facilitating your meeting. And it's a good idea to have at least a touch point every week, at least a half an hour or an hour where you come together and look at what's coming down the pike. And so you make sure you are moving forward in the right way. Okay?